In the shadow-draped halls of a sprawling suburban mansion, wealth whispered promises of safety like a siren song. The house, with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, stood as a fortress against the world. But inside, it was a labyrinth of lies and broken souls. This was the domain of Leonard Hale, a real estate mogul whose empire was built on illusions, just like the one he peddled to his family. But as the web of deceit tightened, the illusion cracked, revealing the rot beneath.
Elise's perspective. Elise Hale moved through the house like a ghost, her footsteps muffled by the plush Persian rugs. The air was thick with the scent of polished wood and fresh lilies, a facade of perfection that masked the chill in her bones. She had married Leonard for the security his wealth promised, but that safety was as illusory as the smiles she wore at his galas. Love, she had learned, was just another form of power, and power in this house meant violence, subtle at first, then sharp as a knife. It had started with words, Leonard's manipulative charm twisting her thoughts until she doubted her own sanity. But now, in the quiet hours when the house slept, Elise found solace in stolen moments with Daniel. Leonard's estranged younger brother had always been the opposite of him, a failed artist, a drifter with paint-stained hands and a gentle soul. Their affair had reignited like a forbidden flame, sparked during a secret rendezvous at a dingy motel on the outskirts of town. That afternoon, as she arranged flowers in the vase by the window, Elise's mind wandered to their last meeting. Daniel's touch had been tender, a stark contrast to Leonard's possessive grip. But the thrill came with terror. Leonard's eyes seemed to follow her everywhere, his surveillance an invisible net. She suspected hidden cameras, the kind that turned their home into a stage for his voyeuristic games. "You're mine," he had whispered once, his voice laced with violence disguised as affection. The generational cycle of abuse was evident in every corner. She saw it in her daughter Chloe, who mirrored Leonard's ruthlessness with unsettling precision. Elise's heart raced as she heard the front door open. Leonard was back. She straightened her dress, forcing a smile. Little did he know, she was no longer the broken wife he thought her to be. She was plotting, escape, revenge, something to shatter the illusion.
Chloe's perspective. Chloe Hale watched her mother from the upstairs balcony, her lips curling into a smirk. At 23, she had learned early that love was a transaction, a game where power meant survival. Her father's empire had taught her that his psychological dominance over the family was a masterclass in manipulation. She had inherited his cold pragmatism, seducing older men for gifts and money, turning affection into currency. It was exhilarating, this dance of control, but it left her hollow, like the echoing rooms of their mansion. That morning, she had stumbled upon her mother's secret. Hidden in the recesses of Elise's phone, a message from Daniel, Leonard's brother. "Meet me tonight," it read, with a photo of a secluded park. Chloe's pulse quickened not with shock, but with opportunity. The affair was a bomb waiting to explode, and she could use it to her advantage. If she exposed it to Leonard, perhaps he'd reward her loyalty with a share of his fortune, freeing her from this gilded cage. Chloe descended the stairs, her heels clicking like a countdown. The house, with its vaulted ceilings and artful deceptions, was a perfect metaphor for their lives. Wealth promised safety, but it was a lie, it only amplified the dangers within. She passed the basement door, feeling a strange draft, as if the house itself held secrets. Leonard's control extended everywhere, his voyeurism a silent predator. She had seen him review security footage once, his eyes gleaming with perverse satisfaction. As she entered the kitchen, she caught Elise's eye. Her mother looked away, guilty. Chloe smiled. In this family, betrayal was the only currency that mattered. She would play her part, just as her father had taught her. Love as power, power as violence, those were the rules. And Chloe was ready to win.
Leonard Hale surveyed his domain from his leather-bound office, the walls lined with monitors displaying every corner of the house. Surveillance was his art, voyeurism his vice. He knew everything, Elise's affair with Daniel, Chloe's manipulations, and he reveled in it. Wealth had given him the illusion of safety, but it was control that made him feel alive. His family was his plaything, a psychological game to test loyalties and punish betrayals. He had invited Daniel back under the guise of reconciliation, a calculated move to trap them all. The drifter brother, with his pathetic artist dreams, was no threat, but his presence would heighten the tension. Leonard sipped his scotch, recalling the first betrayal that had ignited his madness. Years ago, a real estate agent named Vivian had sold him this house. She was beautiful, ambitious, and the first to cheat on him. He had locked her away in the hidden fourth room in the basement, a soundproof chamber, invisible on the blueprints, where her screams echoed only in his mind. The room was his masterpiece, a symbol of his power. Love had always been a weapon for him, and violence its inevitable extension. He saw it in Chloe, the daughter who had inherited his ruthlessness. The cycle of manipulation was complete. She was his legacy, a mirror of his own emotional abuse. As Daniel arrived that evening, Leonard greeted him with a warm handshake, his charm a mask for the storm brewing inside. "Welcome home, brother," he said, his voice smooth as silk. But his eyes darted to the monitors, where Elise and Chloe moved like pieces on a chessboard. The game was set. Soon, they would all know the price of betrayal.
Daniel stepped into the mansion, the opulence hitting him like a wave. He had spent years drifting, chasing art that never sold, but returning here felt like stepping into a trap. Leonard's invitation had seemed genuine, a chance for reconciliation, but Daniel sensed the undercurrents, Elisa's nervous glances, Chloe's calculating stare. Their affair had started innocently, a shared cigarette at a family funeral, but it had grown into something desperate. Elise was trapped in this house, her spirit crushed by Leonard's dominance. Daniel wanted to save her, to break the cycle of abuse that poisoned everything. But as he unpacked in the guest room, he felt eyes on him. The house was alive with secrets, its wealth a hollow promise of safety. That night, as he met Elise in the garden, their kisses were laced with fear. "He knows," she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel pulled back, scanning the shadows. Surveillance was everywhere, he could feel it. Love, for him, was a refuge, but here it was power, and power meant violence. He thought of his niece, Chloe, how she had become a product of Leonard's world. The generational manipulation was evident in her eyes, cold and ambitious. As they parted, Daniel resolved to uncover the truth. But deep down, he knew this house held darker secrets than he imagined.
Elisa's perspective. The next day, the house felt smaller, the air heavier. Daniel's presence had ignited something in Elise, a spark of rebellion. She began snooping, starting with Leonard's office. Hidden among his files, she found blueprints of the house, but one room was missing. The basement layout showed only 3 rooms, yet she had always felt a draft from a sealed door. Her heart pounded as she descended the stairs, flashlight in hand. The hidden 4th room was there, concealed behind a false wall. Inside, she found Vivian, emaciated, broken, murmuring incoherently. Leonard's deeper crimes unfolded like a nightmare, the agent who had cheated on him, imprisoned for years. The illusion shattered, wealth was no safety, only a mask for madness. Elisa's mind raced. Revenge burned in her veins. She confided in Daniel, and together they plotted to expose Leonard. But Chloe was the wild card. That evening, as the family gathered for dinner, Chloe's eyes gleamed with intent.
Chloe's perspective, climax. Chloe watched the scene unfold from the shadows, her father's surveillance feeds streaming on her laptop. She had hacked into his system, her own act of voyeurism. Elise and Daniel's plan was clear. They would call the police, frame Leonard for Vivian's imprisonment. But Chloe saw an opportunity. If she tipped off Leonard, he might disown Elise and make Chloe his heir. As tensions peaked, Leonard confronted them in the living room. "You think I didn't know," he snarled, his charm gone. The room erupted into chaos, accusations, revelations. Elise lunged at him, but Chloe hesitated. In that moment, she chose ambition over blood. She whispered to Leonard, "I'll help you, father." The betrayal was swift. Chloe revealed Daniel's role, turning the tide. Leonard's violence exploded, a physical struggle ensuing. But Elise, fueled by revenge, fought back, freeing Vivian from the basement. In the end, as sirens wailed outside, the house's secrets spilled into the light. Elise escaped with Daniel, but Chloe was left with the ruins of her choices, her father's cycle unbroken. Wealth had promised safety, but it delivered only destruction.
Leonard's perspective. From his cell, Leonard smiled. The game wasn't over. It never was. His family had fractured, but the illusion persisted. Love as power, power as violence. It was his legacy, and in the silence, he waited for his next move.